What's up guys, Ivan Carranza here, and today I want to give you 5 essential bass tips that I wish I learned sooner during my bass playing journey. Number 1 is you have to lock in with the kick drum. When I started playing mostly because of heavy metal, Iron Maiden, Hammerfall, Megadeth, and other rock and metal bands. So a lot of the things that I was listening were either just straight up 16th notes or riff-based parts. There was not much groove, so to speak. And it took me quite a few years until I started listening to more soul, jazz, fusion, whatever, that I started listening to, like, let's say, studio bass players and also more pop artists. Then I noticed, okay, the role of the bass is really, really different. And what makes the bass sound good is when it locks in with the rhythm section, being the drums. So pay really close attention to what drummers are doing, either in your band or also, of course, on records. Even go on YouTube and listen to drummers. You can also look for isolated drum parts. Also, of course, you can go to Drumio's YouTube channel, which is a great resource of information. And also, if you, for example, are a Mac user or have an iPad, you can also use GarageBand and put on a drum loop and just listen to what the drums are doing. Isolate the kick. You can listen to what the drums, interact with each part of the drum kit, so the kick with the snare and the hi-hat. Listen to that and then try to play to it. And there are some very simple rhythms that you can use to match the kick drum, but that one is one that's really, really key if you want to make your bass playing groove better. Number 2 is about tone, and that is that your bedroom tone will most likely not work live, because a lot of the times what people end up doing is scooping the mids, boosting a lot of bass, boosting a lot of treble, which at home at low volumes sounds really good. It sounds really powerful, have a really huge low end and really a lot of sparkle, clarity up top. But in a live performance, you're gonna get completely buried. And that can be in the rehearsal space or, of course, on a stage playing to an audience, because without mids, you don't have any definition. And a common mistake is to boost treble, thinking that you need more clarity to hear yourself better, but in reality, you need some mids. And the mids are a really big portion of the frequency spectrum, starting at around 200, 250 hertz up until like 3000, 3.5K more or less. So it's a big portion of the entire frequency spectrum. So which ones do you need to boost? Which ones can you cut and so on? That, of course, is going to be very genre dependent. But as a general rule of thumb, boosting around 500 to 700 or 900 to 1.5K is going to bring back, or it's going to bring you or give you a lot of more definition. How much you boost, of course, depends on the style of music and what kind of sound you're going for, but dialing in tones in your bedroom and then hoping that your sound, and people get very defensive about their sound, and you're wondering why it doesn't work, check your mids. It's probably going to be one of those that will get that sorted out. Tip number 3, also speaking about EQ, what matters the most is the performance first. You should not use EQ to compensate for a bad performance. And the performance can mean different things. It can be where your hand is placed on the strings, how hard, how soft you're attacking the strings, and the consistency. So if every note has the same volume, or you're getting spikes and quieter notes and a lot of loud spikes and so on. The performance should come first, and then the EQ should be there to complement it. You can think of it kind of like cooking, where if you have poor ingredients, so the source, in this case, you're playing, if the performance or the playing is not good, if the cooking ingredients are not good, and you try to compensate for that with a lot of spices and a lot of salt, the finished product, the meal, is not going to taste good. Whereas if you have great materials, so great ingredients, fresh vegetables, great meat, for example, whatever you cook with that is gonna taste great. So, and you don't need to add as much EQ, in this case, spices, to make it taste good. So if your performance is good, is solid, and without anything sounds really good, it will be much easier to EQ later than trying to band-aid your performance with EQ over EQing, because then you're gonna boost too much bass, you're gonna boost too much treble, too much mids as well, and you're gonna be fighting the poor performance. So always solid performance first, EQ later. Tip number 4 is that when notes start is as important as when notes end, meaning how long they last. So the note duration is really essential. And this can make or break a groove, because if notes extend too much, like longer than they should, then it's gonna sound a bit blurry. And if notes end too short, it's gonna sound choppy and not as flowing as the groove should feel like. So always try to really play for the full amount of the duration that you want to play. So you can practice this very easily by putting on a metronome and really focus on playing, for example, just quarter notes with a pause on a quarter note. So full duration of the quarter note, pause, full duration of the quarter note, pause. Or also using eighth notes offbeats to really cut down the note when the next downbeat happens. This is really, really useful. And when you're playing live, for example, you can guide yourself by, of course, the hi-hat of the drummer and also the snare of the drummer. Something that I really do quite a lot is to leave room for the snare. So I cut my note just when the snare drum hits to make the snare sound louder in theory, by not having my bass note, let's say, masking the sound of the snare. So if you put on a drum loop, you can find a lot of them on YouTube, or if you have like GarageBand or Logic, you can grab a loop, or Ableton Live, for example, put on a loop and practice playing and just releasing your notes right when the snare hits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you press and release. And that's a great way to practice consistency, groove, and also just back to point number 1, locking in with the drummer as well. Point number 5 is to record yourself as much as possible. Probably you're watching this with a phone, so you can already record yourself with the camera or with the voice note app that it has. That's the easiest and quickest solution. Ideally, you can just grab a cheap interface and grab a DAW, like I said, like Logic, GarageBand, Reaper, Cubase. There are a lot of them. That's probably one of the biggest investments that you can do, because once you start listening to yourself and really analyzing how you're playing, you're gonna start noticing a lot of little errors and a lot of little mistakes. For example, in muting, timing, dynamics. There's so many things that you can learn from just listening to yourself. So, like I said, if you don't have like a recording setup, even though it's pretty cheap nowadays to get one, you can just put your phone with camera and listen to yourself, but analyze the performance very critically. Ideally, like I mentioned, using a DAW is going to be better, because you're going to be able to hear yourself a lot clearer, and you're going to be able to see as well the waveforms. So if everything is like constant in volume, it's going to be good. If you have some loud spikes and then some really quieter notes, you're going to notice that as well. Also, if you record direct, like I said, you're going to listen to, or going to be able to listen to a lot of the imperfections in the playing as well, much more accurately. And here's a bonus tip for you, and that is try to learn things by ear as much as possible. Now, this is coming from somebody who does not have the best ears in the world. I do my best, but there's still a lot of enhancement and training that I could do to pick things up quicker. But learning and transcribing by listening is so much better in so many levels than just looking up tabs or notation, because you're gonna learn a lot in the process. You're not gonna learn just how to play what you want to play, of course, but you're gonna learn to recognize patterns. You're gonna learn to figure out things, fingerings on your own, and also look at different options of how you can play certain things. And by doing that, you're gonna develop your vocabulary much better than if you were just looking at, okay, I play fret 1 to fret 3, and it's like this, you know. It's gonna give you so many benefits that just expand to all aspects of playing music and making music. So I cannot recommend this enough. Also, sometimes I get questions here on YouTube on video covers that I have here on the channel, asking me if I have the tabs of what I'm playing. And, you know, I think even if I had them, for your benefit, it's much better just to see what I'm playing and listen to it as well and figure it out on your own. A lot of the things I put here when I'm playing music by other people, I've learned by ear. And you're watching me perform it, so you already have like the visual representation of what I'm playing. Now you just need to figure it out by listening. And, you know, it's gonna take longer, of course, than if you were, you know, shown the sheet of paper or the tabs, but you're gonna gain so much more from doing that. I cannot recommend it enough. I hope you guys like the video. Let me know what you think are some other essential bass tips that have helped you. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.